I want to start today with a feeling that I think is pretty universal, especially for the kind of people listening to this. It's that low-level hum of dissatisfaction. Not necessarily that life is bad, but that it could be, optimized.
Right, the constant search for the upgrade.
Exactly. The better workflow, the clearer headspace, the career pivot that finally makes sense of our resume. It's like we're always scanning the horizon for the extraordinary thing that's going to fix the ordinary mess we're in.
That really is the default setting for the modern brain. I mean, we are wired to be seekers. Biologically, if you stop seeking, you stop eating. But psychologically, it creates this permanent state of just not being there yet.
Yeah, and usually when we do these deep dives, we're looking at material that promises to help us get there faster, to give you the tools to reach that destination. But today is a bit different.
Very different, yeah.
We're looking at a collection of insights titled The Ocean of Consciousness. And honestly, when I first read the premise, I was a bit skeptical, because the core argument is basically that you don't need to go anywhere. The extraordinary isn't a destination at all. It's where you already are.
It does sound a bit like a Hallmark card at first glance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like bloom where you were planted.
Right. A bit cliche.
Exactly. But if you actually dig into the sources here, and we have a really eclectic mix in this text, we're talking about insights from Nitin Sarawat, Karl Marx, Josie Tallman, and others. They aren't offering comfort. They're offering a pretty radical critique of how we perceive our reality.
So they're saying our obsession with seeking is actually the problem.
The source material argues that our seeking is a form of blindness. Our mission for this deep dive is to basically stop swimming for a second and look at the water we're currently in, to stop seeking new things and just see existing things differently.
So let's test that, because I think most of you listening feel like your seeking is productive, you're learning, you're growing. But the text opens with this metaphor of the fish and the invisible ocean. And I have to say, the whole fish doesn't know it's in water analogy is something I think I heard in 9th grade philosophy.
It is a well-worn trope.
Yeah. So is there actually any real depth to this, or is it just a poetic way of saying pay attention?
It's a valid pushback. But think about why the fish doesn't see the water. It's not because the fish is stupid. It's because the water is constant. In neuroscience, we call this habituation. Your brain is essentially designed to ignore anything that doesn't change.
Okay.
Like, you don't feel your socks on your feet right now, do you?
Well, I didn't until you just said that. Now they feel really weird.
Exactly. Your brain filters out the constant so it can focus on the variable, the predator, the food, the sudden change in environment. The argument here is that our water, meaning our conditioning, our inherited cultures, our religions, our social systems, is so constant that it has become completely invisible to us.
So we don't even see it as a belief system.
No, we just see it as reality. We are taught what success and failure look like long before we have the cognitive capacity to actually question those definitions.
Okay, so if the ocean is this invisible conditioning, what does that actually look like on a random Tuesday morning? Because I feel like I make my own choices. I choose my coffee, I choose my job, I choose my political leanings.
Do you? Or do you choose from the very specific menu that was handed to you by your culture? Let's look at success. For most people in the West, success looks like a specific trajectory. You go to university, you find a stable partner, you buy property, you retire. That is the water.
Right.
And if you were swimming in that current, you don't feel the current at all. You only feel it if you try to turn around and swim against it.
That's a really fair point. You only notice the water when you're drowning in it or when you're actively trying to get out.
Precisely. And this is where the text brings in a quote from Karl Marx. Now, usually when people hear Marx, they think about economics or historical revolution.
Right.
But the text pulls an observation from him on human behavior that cuts right to the bone of this blind spot. He said, whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect.
I've always found that quote a bit edgy just for the sake of being edgy. I mean, isn't there real wisdom in crowds? If everyone is running away from a burning building, I should probably run with the majority.
Sure.
Or if everyone says don't eat those specific berries, I probably shouldn't eat the berries. Evolutionarily speaking, the majority keeps us alive.
In survival situations, absolutely. You follow the herd. But the authors here point out that Marx isn't talking about surviving a crisis. He's talking about living a conscious life. The argument is that the majority naturally converges on comfort, not on truth.
Ah, okay. Uniformity feels safe.
It feels incredibly safe. If everyone else is stressed about their job titles and their mortgage rates, then my stress about my job title feels validated. It feels like a real, tangible law of the
It
universe.
was basically a massive feedback loop. We constantly validate each other's anxieties, so we never actually have to stop and question if they're necessary in the first place.
It's a shared blindness. If you look left and right and everyone around you is swimming the exact same stroke, you just assume it's the only possible way to swim. But the quote suggests that comfort is actually the enemy of consciousness. If you are comfortable with your beliefs just because everyone else shares them, you've likely shut off your own critical thinking.
You've traded your unique potential for the safety of the group, which makes sense, but it's terrifying because the alternative, swimming completely alone is cold. It's isolating.
And that is exactly why we avoid it. We prefer the warm illusion of the crowd. But the source material highlights another really subtle mechanism we use to avoid this work, and I found this one even more challenging. It's about the concept of worship.
Yeah, this part actually rubbed me the wrong way initially. It quotes Nisar Khan, who says, "Believing in a great person is easy. The benefit is that we escape the responsibility of living like them."
It's a sharp observation.
It feels incredibly cynical to me. I mean, I have heroes. I look up to people, innovators, activists, great writers. Are they saying that admiration itself is a bad thing?
Not that it's inherently bad, but that it's very often used as a deflection. Think about how we consume greatness today. We watch these beautifully shot documentaries about minimalists while we sit in houses full of clutter.
Right.
We listen to deep dives about stoicism while
Yeah.
we're raging at someone cutting us off in traffic.
Mm.
We put these figures on pedestals.
So by elevating them to this superhuman status, we create a convenient separation. Like they are special, I am normal, therefore I am exempt from doing what they do.
Exactly. It's a psychological loophole we build for ourselves. If I label you a genius or a saint, I am implicitly saying that your standard of behavior is completely unattainable for me. I can praise your honesty, which makes me feel like a good, virtuous person who values honesty, without actually having to endure the friction of having difficult, honest conversations in my own life.
Ouch. Okay, yeah, that hits home. It's basically the fanboy effect. We're massive fans of virtue, but we aren't actual practitioners of it.
We outsource the heavy lifting. We let the great people carry the moral weight while we just sit in the audience and applaud. The source is arguing here that true respect for a great person isn't worship at all. It's emulation. If you really admire an innovator, don't just buy their biography. Start innovating in your own life. But that's hard. Worship is easy.
It seems like there's a really clear theme emerging from the text here. We use the majority to feel safe. We use worship to avoid responsibility. It's all about dodging the actual hard work of being a conscious human being.
And the biggest place we hide, according to the text, is time.
Right. This was the section featuring Somnath Patil. The quote is, "The past gives comfort while the present gives tension because it demands constant focus." Now, I have to stop you there because pretty much everything I read in the modern self-help space says the exact opposite.
It does, yes.
The present is supposed to be the power of him now. It's marketed as this zen, peaceful, anxiety-free state. Why is Patil calling it tension?
Because the self-help version of the present is very often marketed as a vacation from your life.
Hmm.
But neurologically speaking, the present moment is a high-cost environment for your brain. Right now, in this exact second, you have to process live information, you have to make micro decisions, you have to regulate your posture, your tone, your attention.
It requires a lot of cognitive
A
load.
tremendous amount. And that cognitive load is tension.
So when he says tension, he doesn't mean stress or anxiety. He means active engagement.
He means responsibility. The past is a closed file. You can visit it, you can edit it in your memory to make yourself look a little bit better, but it does not demand any real-time action from you. And the future, that's just a simulation your brain runs. You can worry about it endlessly, but you don't actually have to execute it yet.
So we constantly retreat to the past and the future because they're essentially low-stakes environments.
They are the path of least resistance. When we live there, we're running on autopilot, and autopilot is essentially your brain saying, I don't want to deal with the tension and the demands of the now, so I'm just going to run the standard script I was given.
Which leads to a lot of movement without any actual change.
Exactly. You can be incredibly busy on autopilot. You can be stressed, rushing around working 80 hours a week, but you aren't actually conscious. You're just a mechanism reacting to stimuli. Real change, that extraordinary shift we talked about at the very beginning, can only happen in the volatile, high-tension environment of the present moment.
This connects directly to what the text calls the information paradox. And I want to talk to you, the listener, specifically here, because we often call our audience the learners. You guys are the people who devour books, who listen to deep dives like this one, who probably have a stack of 20 unread articles sitting in your browser tabs right
I
now.
I think we are all extremely guilty of
Oh,
this.
totally. But the text throws a real wrench in the gears of that habit. It quotes Josie Tommen, who says, "It is understanding that transforms, not knowledge."
This is the ultimate trap of the intellectual class. We constantly confuse having the map with actually walking the terrain.
I feel this constantly in my own life. I'll read a book on productivity, and just the act of reading it makes me feel highly productive. I get
Yeah.
this hit of dopamine just from acquiring new information. But have I actually changed my daily workflow? Usually, no. I've just read about someone else's.
That's because knowledge is just accumulation. You're collecting data points. You can stack them up in your brain like little trophies. You can say, I know about quantum physics, or I know about mindfulness practices. But understanding is metabolic. It's a digestion process. You have to break that knowledge down and integrate it into your cells until it physically changes how you behave in the world.
So, how do you actually know the difference? If I'm listening to this right now, how do I know if I truly understand something or if I just know about it?
The text implies is pretty simple.
Hmm.
Has your reaction changed? If you know everything there is to know about mindfulness,
Hmm.
you can quote the literature, you know what the brain scans look like, but you still immediately snap at your spouse the second you feel tired, you only have knowledge.
Right.
But if you catch that angry impulse in the moment and you take a breath instead of snapping, then you have understanding.
So, knowledge is a noun, it's a thing you hold. But understanding is a verb, it's a thing you do.
In a way, yes. And the source implies that we actually use knowledge as just another hiding place.
Yeah.
If I keep learning about a problem, I never actually have to go out and solve it. Saying, I'm just doing my research is probably the ultimate procrastination technique of the modern era.
We're swimming in circles, but we're reading books about swimming in straight lines, so we convince ourselves we're making forward progress.
Exactly. You're just a very well-read fish, still stuck in the exact same pond.
But sometimes, and I found this part of the deep dive really redemptive, we do start swimming in a specific direction, and we eventually realize it's the wrong one. The text talks about this concept of wrong addresses. Nitin Sarawat says some wrong addresses turn us into lifelong travelers.
This is a massive, incredibly important reframe for anyone who feels like they've wasted time in their life.
Well, that is the ultimate fear, isn't it? I spend 10 years grinding up the corporate ladder, or 5 years in a serious relationship, or 4 years getting a specialized degree, and then I wake up one day and realize, I hate this. The sunk cost fallacy immediately kicks in. You feel like a complete failure.
But the text argues that arriving at a wrong address is actually a moment of profound success.
How so? It definitely doesn't feel like success.
Because until the exact moment you hit that wrong address, you were mostly just following instructions. You were doing what your parents or your society or Marx's majority told you you're supposed to do. The moment you stand at that door, look around, and say, this isn't my home, is the very first moment you are actually awake.
It's the moment the fish finally bumps its nose into the glass of the tank.
Precisely. It shatters the illusion entirely. It turns you from a passive follower into an active explorer. You cannot find your own genuine path until you realize that the paved road everyone else is on doesn't actually go to a place you want to be. The wrong address is just data. It tells you what you aren't, which is the only way to figure out what you are.
That is a huge relief, honestly. It totally takes the shame out of pivoting late in the game. But there's a practical problem here. We live in a world that heavily penalizes slowing down. If I realize I'm currently at a wrong address, my immediate instinct is to sprint as fast as I can to the next address.
Naturally.
I need to fix the error. I need to find the right thing right now so I don't fall behind.
And that is the final trap the text warns about. Speed. Virender Singh Chauhan has this brilliant line in the collection. He says, the world will teach you to run. Learn to pause. That will help.
Which is very easy to say, but extremely hard to do when you have a mortgage to pay and LinkedIn notifications popping up on your phone every 5 seconds reminding you of everyone else's success. Pausing feels exactly like losing.
Because we have been conditioned to equate speed with progress. But think about it. If you're running in the wrong direction, speed is just taking you further and further away from yourself. The pause they're advocating for here isn't about taking a 6-month sabbatical or lying on a beach somewhere. It's a deeply internal stop.
What does an internal stop actually look like in practice?
It looks like intentionally creating a gap between the stimulus and your response. It means not automatically saying yes to that new project just to please your boss. It means not automatically doom scrolling the second you feel a hint of boredom. It's cultivating that split second where you ask yourself, wait, why am I actually doing this?
It goes right back to the water metaphor. The pause is literally the only way to see the water.
Because speed blurs your vision. When you're constantly moving fast, everything is just a blur of reaction. When you finally stop, the sediment settles. You start to actually see your own conditioning. You notice, oh, I'm only chasing this promotion because I'm terrified of being poor like my grandfather was. Or I'm only agreeing with this person because I desperately need their approval.
And the text has that powerful line about this realization. Once seen, it cannot be unseen.
That is the point of no return. Once you realize you are acting out of fear or out of inherited conditioning, the spell is broken. Now, you might still choose to do the exact same thing, but you will do it consciously. You'll do it because you actively want to, not because you feel blindly compelled to.
And that distinction, the gap between a conscious choice and an automatic reaction, that seems to be the true definition of the extraordinary we were looking for at the top of the show.
It is. We started this whole discussion looking for the extraordinary as if it were some distant mountain peak we have to exhaust ourselves trying to climb. But the source material is telling us that the extraordinary is just the ordinary, but experienced with full, unfiltered awareness.
It's the fish realizing, oh, this is water. I'm already in it. I can choose to swim anywhere I want.
Exactly. It's the fundamental shift from being a passive character reading a script to being the writer of the script itself. You are still in the exact same scenes, you are dealing with the exact same daily conflicts, but you are no longer a victim of the plot.
So, if we strip away all the metaphors we've used today, the fish, the travelers, the addresses, what is the actual homework for you listening? Because I know our listeners love actionable takeaways, but you can't really just write be conscious on your morning to-do list.
No, you can't force consciousness like a task, but you can set traps for your own autopilot.
Give me an example of a trap.
Pick one area of your life right now where you feel the absolute most certain. Maybe it's your political stance, maybe it's your strict diet, maybe it's the specific career path you're grinding out. And genuinely ask yourself, is this mine? Or did I inherit this from the majority?
Scrutinize the water you're currently swimming in.
Deeply. And the second piece of homework is to practice the micropause. Tomorrow, when you feel that tension of the present moment, that sudden urge to distract yourself, to pick up your phone, to run away from an uncomfortable feeling, just stay in it for 10 seconds. Just 10 seconds. Watch the impulse without acting on it. That gap is where the transformation actually happens.
It's not about moving mountains. It's just about not immediately running away from the pebble in your shoe.
Beautifully put.
As we wrap this up, I want to circle back to that image of the fish one last time. We all spend so much energy thrashing around, trying to find it, the meaning, the purpose, the ultimate success. We completely exhaust ourselves in the search. But if the fish finally realized it was already in the ocean, it wouldn't stop swimming. It would just start panicking. It would swim with a completely different kind of grace. So here's the question I want to leave you with today. And it's a direct question for the learner in you who constantly wants to fix everything. If you genuinely accepted that you are already in the extraordinary, that you don't need to get there because you are already here, what search would you stop today?
Yeah.
What is the one thing you are endlessly chasing that you could just let go of so you can actually start living? Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. See you next time.